I am going to record how a bitter old man lives. That is what my own son told me, laughing while he turned on the camera. My hands were shaking, but I did not give him the satisfaction of seeing me fall. He pointed the lens directly at my face. I did not cry. I was not going to do it for him. But what he recorded that day destroyed him, because when he uploaded the video, the whole world saw who the real bitter person was. If this story touches your soul, please subscribe to William's Revenge Stories. Every day we share real stories that could be yours. Tell us which state or country you are watching from. My name is Arthur Vance. I am 67 years old, and until a few months ago, I thought the worst things in my life had already happened. I was wrong. The worst arrived on a Tuesday afternoon, when my son Ethan appeared at the door of my apartment with a camera in his hand and a smile I did not recognize. It was not the smile I remembered. It was not my son's smile. It was something else, something cold, something sharp, like when you look at someone you know, but the person you loved is no longer behind those eyes. And I, like an idiot, opened the door. I offered him coffee, waiting, hoping he would tell me he came to visit, that he missed me, that he wanted to stay a while. But what came out of his mouth was worse than any insult, worse than a punch. It was like he stabbed me with a knife and twisted it slowly. I am going to record how a bitter old man lives. He said it just like that. No. Hello, Dad. No. How are you? Nothing. And he laughed. He laughed while turning on that camera and pointing it straight at my face, as if I were an animal, as if I were trash. I stayed there, sitting in my worn-out chair, hands gripping my knees so he would not see them trembling, trying to process what he had just said. Bitter old man, his father, me, the man who carried him in his arms when he cried, the man who walked him to school every single morning for years, the man who stayed awake all night when he had a fever at 5 years old. And now he was there, with that camera, with that smile, laughing at me. I said nothing. I could not. I had something stuck in my throat, something hard and hot that stopped me from speaking. I felt that if I opened my mouth, a scream or a sob would come out. I do not know which one, because it was not just the camera. It was the way he looked at me, as if I were a walking failure, as if my entire life were a bad joke. He started walking around the apartment, recording everything, the table with 3 chairs, because I sold the other 2. I sold them when I understood that I was not going to have guests anymore, that I was not going to share dinners with anyone. He filmed the small kitchen, the stacked plates from the breakfast I ate alone staring at the wall, the empty hallway where photos used to be, our photos. I took them down months ago because it hurt to see them, to see his child face smiling at me, remembering when he still loved me. Look, this is how he lives, he said to the camera. He was not talking to me. He was talking to that black thing with a lens, as if I were not there, as if I were not a person, as if I did not have ears or a heart or blood running through my veins. He opened the fridge and filmed the almost empty interior. Do you see this? He said, laughing. This is what happens when you grow old alone, when you did nothing with your life. And I sat there thinking, I am alone because you do not come, Ethan, because you stopped calling me, because you stopped answering my messages, because you are ashamed that your father does not have a luxury apartment like the ones you see on the internet. But I did not say it. I only thought it, and it burned inside me like acid. There was something strange about all this, something that did not add up. It had been so long since he came to see me that I had almost lost hope of his return. So long that sometimes I wondered if he still remembered my address, my phone number, my voice. The last time he came, he stayed for such a short time that he did not even finish the coffee I served him. He said he had commitments, that his community was waiting for him. Community. That word he uses now to refer to thousands of strangers who follow him on the internet, people who do not really know him, who do not know how he cried when he was a boy, who were not there when he learned to walk, but apparently they are more important than me. And now he was back, but not for me. He was back for this, to mock, to show the whole world how his father lived, the bitter old man. A flash crossed my mind. I saw him waiting for me at the school gate, small, with bright eyes, running toward me shouting, "Dad," and hanging from my neck with those little arms that barely surrounded me. I was everything to him then, his whole world, his hero. When did it happen? At what moment did I stop being that, to become this, his joke, his content, the example of how not to end up in life? I wanted to ask him. I wanted to scream at him. What did I do to you? When did you stop caring about me? But he had that camera pointing at me, and I knew that if I said something, he was going to use it. He was going to edit it. He was going to turn it into part of his show. So I stayed silent. Silent like a coward, swallowing everything I wanted to tell him. The silence between us was so big that it hurt physically, as if there were a glass wall. I could see him. He was there, 6 feet away, but I could not touch him. I could not reach him. He kept talking, but not to me. He spoke for the camera, for those people who do not even know his last name, and me there, invisible, present but absent, alive but dead. Because that is how you feel when the person you love most treats you as if you were air, as if you did not exist, worse than a scream, worse than a fight. Because in fights, at least, there is contact, there is heat, there is something. But in silence, there is only ice, there is only emptiness, there is only nothing. I followed him with my gaze as he entered my room. He filmed the unmade bed, the wrinkled sheets, the pillow sunken only on one side, because no one sleeps on the other side anymore. Ever. He filmed my old books stacked on the floor because I sold the bookshelf a long time ago. The books I read so many times that the pages are yellow and the covers worn. He filmed my clothes hanging on a makeshift clothesline in the window because the dryer stopped working and I do not have the money to fix it. And every shot, every movement of that camera was as if they were skinning me alive. This is how you end up when you build nothing in life, he said. And I clenched my fists. I wanted to scream. I built you. Every day of my life was for you. But I did not do it. Because I already learned that screaming at someone who does not want to listen to you is worse than silence. When he finished filming, he put the camera in his backpack. He looked at me for a second. Just a second. I saw something in his eyes. Something that looked like doubt or guilt. Or maybe it was just my desperate imagination looking for something human in him. I thought he was going to say something real, something from son to father. And, "I love you," even if it were a lie. And, "Are you okay?" Even if he did not care about the answer. But no, what he said was worse than everything before. This is going to get millions of views. Dad, you will see. People need to see reality. Reality. My life turned into reality for his entertainment, and he left, just like that, without a hug, without a handshake, without anything. He just grabbed his backpack, opened the door, and disappeared. The door closed, and I stayed there, in that apartment that now seemed emptier than ever. I stayed sitting. I do not know how long. It could have been an hour, or 3, or all night. It did not matter. Time meant nothing anymore. Outside, the sky turned orange, then purple, then black, and I did not even turn on the light. I stayed there in the dark, listening. The hum of the old fridge that has been making a weird noise for months, the sound of traffic on the street, distant voices of neighbors, laughter of children playing outside, life, all that life passing by while I was here, alone, asking myself how I reached this point. How a man who had so many years of work, who had a classroom full every day, who had a son who adored him, ended up like this, turned into a joke, into 8 minutes of content, into the example of what not to be. Because that is what hurts the most. You know, It is not the loneliness. It is not the small apartment with walls that are falling apart. It is not the empty fridge, nor the old clothes, nor the used books. It is knowing that the person who should take care of you, who should defend you, who should love you, even if you were the poorest man in the world, is the same one who stabs you, the same one who uses you, the same one who turns you into trash so others can laugh. And the worst, the most screwed up part of all, is that despite that, I kept waiting. I kept that stupid hope that maybe he would knock on the door again, that he would come back and tell me, "Sorry, Dad, it was a joke, a social experiment, whatever." But he did not come back, and I stayed there sitting in the dark, wondering if I was still worth something to someone, if I was still a person, or if I was just content. I did not sleep that night. I stayed awake on the sofa, staring at the ceiling, feeling how the world had become heavier, as if someone had put a giant stone on my chest. And I could not stop thinking about everything, about how we got to this, about when everything broke, because there was a moment, an exact moment when Ethan stopped being my son and became something else, someone I did not recognize. It was when he was 16 years old. I remember because it was sudden, like someone flipped a switch. One day he was my boy. The next day he was a stranger living in my house. He started locking himself in his room. He stopped having dinner with me. I would knock on his door and he would scream at me to leave him alone, and me on the other side, not understanding what I had done wrong. One afternoon I found him sitting on his bed with his phone in his hand. He did not even look up when I entered. "Ethan, talk to me," I told him. "I am your father." And he looked at me as if I had just said the stupidest thing in the world. "You do not understand anything about my life." "Dad," he said. His voice was not angry. It was worse. It was cold, distant, as if he were speaking to a stranger who did not matter to him. "You are from another era, from another world. You know nothing about what matters now." And he locked himself in his room, slamming the door so hard the walls shook. I stayed there, standing in the hallway with my hand still raised halfway, feeling that I had just lost something, something I was never going to be able to recover. That night I did not sleep. I spent it thinking about what I had done wrong, at what moment I failed. Something had happened years before, something that changed everything, although I did not understand it at the time. Ethan was 11 years old when it happened. I arrived from work one day and the house was too silent. I found Ethan sitting on the living room floor, crying with a piece of paper in his hand. A note, barely a few lines. I do not remember exactly what it said, but I do remember the last words. "Forgive me." His mother. She had left just like that, without explanation, without a goodbye. She just left. Ethan asked me, crying, "Why, Dad, was it my fault?" And I hugged him and lied to him. I told him no, that sometimes things happen, that it was nobody's fault. But the truth is that I did not understand either. And I think Ethan never believed me. I think from that day he started thinking that there was something wrong with us, with him, with me, with everything. After that, I had to work double, triple, all the time. I left the house when it was still dark and returned when it was already night. Ethan ate alone, did homework alone, went to sleep alone. I arrived exhausted and found him asleep or locked in his room, and it tore me in two, because I knew I was losing him, that my absence was pushing him away. But what could I do? Someone had to pay the rent, someone had to put food on the table, and that someone was me, only me, without help, without a net, without anything, doing what I could, which was never, never enough. Neither to pay the bills, nor to be the father he needed, and that killed me slowly, like a poison you take every day in small doses. There was a day I will never forget. Ethan asked me for something simple, something any father should be able to give his son. He wanted to play football. There was a team in the neighborhood. His friends went. He wanted to go too. He gave me a paper with the prices. uniform, fees, transport. I added everything in my head, and I felt the floor opening under my feet. I could not. I simply could not. I explained to him, with my voice breaking, that we did not have money for that, that maybe later on, that I was very sorry. I saw his face. I saw how something turned off in his eyes. He did not cry. That was the worst part. If he had cried, maybe it would have been easier. But no. He only said, "It is okay, Dad. It does not matter." And from that day, he stopped asking me for things. He stopped dreaming out loud. He learned that our dreams did not fit in our budget. Some Sundays I still tried. They were my only days off. I took him to the park. We bought cheap ice creams, the kind that melt fast. We sat on a bench and I told him things. Stories from my day, about the people I worked with, funny things that happened, and he listened. Sometimes he even laughed. And in those moments I thought there was still hope, that we were still father and son, that we could still save ourselves. But those moments became rarer, shorter, more forced, like when you try to glue something that has already broken too many times, until one day it simply did not work anymore. There were no more Sundays in the park, no more stories, only silence. The day he turned 18, I prepared something, a small cake from a cheap bakery, a candle. Nothing fancy, but it was something. I waited for him. I set the table. I lit the candle. And I waited. Hours passed. I called. He did not answer. I sent messages. Nothing. He arrived almost at midnight, smelling of alcohol, with red eyes. I confronted him. "It is your birthday, Ethan. I prepared something for you." He did not even look at the cake. I was with my friends. "Dad," he told me, with people who actually understand me, people who know what it is to live in this century. And he went up the stairs, closed his door. He left me there with that stupid cake and that candle consuming itself slowly. I blew it out. I ate a piece alone, in silence, crying like an idiot, because I realized I had already lost him, and I did not even know when it had happened. During the day, I was someone else, at work. I still mattered. People sought me out, asked me for advice, told me nice things. "You changed my life. You were like a father to me." And I smiled, helped, listened, did what I had always done. But inside, I was dying. Because I thought, my own son does not see me. My own son treats me like trash. And here I am playing the perfect father for other people's children. The irony killed me. Being the father everyone wanted to have, except mine. Being important to hundreds of people, except for the only one who really mattered to me. The nights were the worst. I stayed awake late, grading papers, preparing things, but in reality I was just avoiding going to sleep. Because when I lay down, I had to listen to the silence. That horrible silence of knowing that Ethan was on the other side of the wall, but that there was an abyss between us, an abyss that grew every day. I tried to talk to him so many times. "What do you need from me? How can I help you?" What did I do wrong? But always the same answer. "Nothing, Dad." That word, nothing. As if I were nothing. As if everything I had done was nothing. As if my love was worth nothing. And every time I heard it, I died a little more inside. Years passed. The crack became bigger. He moved out, first to a shared room, then to his own apartment. And I stayed here, in this place that used to be a home and now is just an empty space where I sleep. I tried to maintain contact, calls that went unanswered, and me there, waiting, always waiting, like an idiot, like a dog waiting for an owner who is never coming back. Until one day I stopped waiting. I accepted that I no longer had a son, that I had lost him at some point along the way, and that maybe I was never going to get him back. And now there was this. The video, the camera, the humiliation. But you know what is the most screwed up part, the most painful part, is that when I saw him arrive with that camera, for a second, just a second, I was happy. I was happy to see him. Even if it was for this, even if it was to use me, to make fun of me. I was happy because at least he came. At least he saw me. At least for 8 minutes I was important to him, even if it was as a joke, as content, as the example of how not to end up in life, and that is what hurts the most. Knowing that I am so desperate for his attention that even humiliation, seems better than nothing, that his contempt seems better than his indifference, because at least when he despises me, I know I exist, that I am still something to him, even if that something is a mockery. Ethan was 21 when he arrived that night and dropped the bomb. I was having dinner, chicken and rice, the same as always. He sat in front of me with his phone in his hand. He did not even touch the plate I served him. He just looked at me and said, "I am going to dedicate myself to this. Dad, I am going to be a content creator. Content creator." I repeated those words in my head, trying to understand them. "What is that, son?" I asked him, and I saw him roll his eyes, as if I had just asked the stupidest question in the world. Videos dad, social media, influencer. People are going to pay me to show my life. I put down the fork. I looked at him looking for some trace of a joke on his face. But no, he was serious. His eyes were bright, excited, more excited than I had seen him in years, and that excitement had nothing to do with me. "And what are you going to live on in the meantime?" I asked him. "Who is going to pay you?" He laughed. He laughed at me. "They are already paying me, Dad. I have sponsorships, collaborations. This is already my job. But Ethan," I told him, trying to keep calm, "you need something secure. A degree, a career, something real." And there he exploded. "This is real. More real than spending 40 years teaching for a misery." He stood up from the table. The chair scraped the floor, making a horrible noise. "There are people making millions doing this, Dad. Millions. How much did you earn in your whole life? Huh, look at yourself. Look where you live. Look at what you have." And he pointed at me, at the apartment, at everything, as if it were trash. "You do not understand anything about the real world," he said, and he locked himself in his room, slamming the door. That night I did not sleep. I stayed in the kitchen looking at his untouched plate, the chicken I had cooked with care, the rice cooling slowly, and I thought about what he had said. A shitty life. That was what he saw when he looked at me. Not the sacrifices, not the sleepless nights, not the years working myself to the bone so he would have food, clothes, school. He only saw a small apartment, a failed old man, and maybe he was right. Maybe everything I did was worth nothing. Because there I was, 60-something years old, alone, with nothing to show but old walls and worn-out furniture. But I had worked with dignity. I repeated to myself, I had helped people. I had changed lives. Did that not count? Apparently not. Not for him. 2 months later, he sent me a message. Not even a call. A message. "I am moving, Dad. I got a room with other creators. I need my space." I read those lines over and over again. My space. As if he did not have space here. As if I were in his way. I replied, "As you wish, son. The door will always be open." He saw the message. He never replied. The day he came for his things, I was not there. I could not be there. I went walking aimlessly for hours. When I returned, it was already night. I went up the stairs slowly. I opened the door to his room, and it hit me. The emptiness. Only the marks on the floor remained where the furniture used to be. A poster forgotten on the wall, and that smell. That cologne he used. Still floating in the air like a ghost. I sat on the floor right there, in that empty room, and I cried. The first weeks I wrote to him every day. "How are you, son? Did you eat well? Do you need anything?" At first he answered, little, single words. "Good. Yes. No." Then he started taking longer, hours, days, until he directly stopped answering. But I saw the messages. I saw them turn blue, red, and that was almost worse than if he did not read them, because it meant he saw them, that he knew I was there waiting, and he decided to ignore me. I called, and he did not answer. I left him voicemails with a broken voice. Ethan, it is Dad. I just want to know about you. It does not matter what time. Call me. Nothing. Only silence. That silence that eats you alive. That makes you ask what you did to deserve this. To have your own son erase you like this. My birthday passed. He did not come. Did not call. Did not write. Nothing. As if that day did not exist. As if I did not exist. I prepared food anyway. I put 2 plates on the table. Like an idiot. Hoping that maybe, just maybe, he would appear by surprise. I lit a candle on a piece of bread, because I did not even have a cake. I watched it consume slowly, while I ate alone. The other plate intact in front of me, empty, like everything. His birthday passed. I called him. He hung up. I sent him a message. Happy birthday. Son, I love you. He never replied. Christmas, New Year's, all those days that families are supposed to spend together. I was here. He was who knows where, with his community, with his followers, with all that world that was more important than me. School was the only thing keeping me sane. There I was, still Mr. Vance, someone who mattered. The kids sought me out, told me their things, their problems with girlfriends, with parents, with life. Professor, what would you do? And I gave them advice. I talked to them about life, about values, about family. What irony. Me talking to them about family when mine was destroyed. They hugged me. Thank you. Professor, you are like a father to me. And I smiled. But inside I thought, my son does not hug me. My son does not even talk to me. I returned home, and the silence received me like a slap in the face. The empty walls, the mute phone, me being a father to the whole world, except for my own son. The letter arrived on a Tuesday. Dear Mr. Arthur Vance, we inform you that as of next month, you are officially retired. I read it 5 times. 42 years. 42 years of my life dedicated to that school, to those classrooms, to those kids. And now they told me, we do not need you anymore. Go. The pension was a joke. I did the math. It barely covered rent and basic food. Nothing more. No more ice cream sundaes in the park. Everything was over. My last day of work, I cried in the bathroom. I looked at myself in the mirror. An old man of 65, tired, finished, without a job, without a son, without anything. And I thought, this is what is left. This is everything. I returned home, to the silence, to nothing. That day I grabbed the phone with trembling hands. I dialed. I needed to hear his voice. I needed him to know. It rang. Once, twice, 3 times, 4. Voicemail. The number you dialed is not available. I hung up. I dialed again. The same. A 3rd time. Nothing. I wrote to him. I retired today. Son. After 42 years, can we see each other? I need to talk to you. I saw the message turn blue. Read. I waited. An hour. 2. 3. Nothing. He did not answer, and there, sitting on that old sofa with the phone in my hand, I understood something horrible. I understood that not even something as important as this mattered to him, that there was nothing, absolutely nothing, that would make him return. And I was drowning, literally felt like I was lacking air. The days became endless. I got up not knowing what for, without a place to go, without a purpose. I ate breakfast watching the wall. I watched TV programs I did not care about just to hear voices, to not feel so alone. I walked around the apartment from one side to the other, like a caged animal. I stood in front of the door of Ethan's empty room. Sometimes I entered. I sat on the floor. I touched the marks left by his furniture. I closed my eyes and tried to remember how it was when he lived here. His laughter, his steps, his presence. But the memories were becoming blurrier, as if they were also leaving me alone with empty walls and echoes of a life that no longer existed, and I started to believe him. I started to believe he was right, that I was a failure, a bitter old man who wasted his life. Because look at him, 42 years working, and for what? To end up alone in an apartment falling to pieces. So that my own son hates me, so that the world forgets me. The ex-students who wrote to me once in a while were just crumbs, moments that did not fill the giant void Ethan left. And when that Tuesday arrived with the camera, a stupid part of me got excited. I thought, he came back. Finally, he came back. Even if it was to humiliate me, even if it was to use me, at least he came. At least he saw me. But when he left, when he closed that door, I understood the truth. He did not come for me. He came for content. I was not his father. I was just material for his next video. The bitter old man who served him to get views. That Tuesday when Ethan arrived with the camera. I was drinking tea. It is something I do every afternoon, a silly custom, one of those you cling to when you do not have much left. I heard knocking at the door and my heart skipped a beat, because almost no one came to visit me anymore. I opened it, and there he was, my son, older, with a beard, with expensive clothes I had never seen on him, and with that camera in his hand. He did not hug me, did not greet me, only said, "Hello," and entered as if he were a stranger, as if he had never lived there, as if I were not his father, but someone he barely knew. I stepped aside and let him pass. I still thought that maybe, after filming whatever he came to film, we could talk. We could have coffee. We could be father and son again. How naive I was. I am going to record the reality of old people, he told me, while turning on the camera and pointing towards me. He laughed. He laughed at my face of confusion, at my surprise. My community wants to see this. They want to know how people live when they remain alone. Community. That word again. Those strangers who for him were more important than his own father. I stayed there standing, with the tea still in my hand, not knowing what to say. Because what do you tell your son when he turns you into a spectacle? What do you tell him when he uses you as content to entertain strangers? I found no words. I only felt shame. A deep, burning shame that rose from my stomach to my throat. He started walking around the apartment recording everything, and I followed him not knowing what to do. I wanted to ask him to stop. I wanted to tell him not to do this. But I could not, because I was afraid that if I confronted him, he would leave again. And I preferred the humiliation to losing him again. How pathetic. Right. Letting your own son treat you like this, just because you are afraid of being more alone than you already are. He opened the fridge and filmed the inside. "Look," he said for the camera. "Milk. A piece of cheese and rice from Sunday. You see, this is what happens when you grow old alone and you did nothing with your life. My life. 42 years teaching, hundreds of students, and for him, that was nothing. He kept recording, went to the living room and focused on the old television, the worn furniture, the walls with peeling paint that I did not have money to fix. Nobody lives like this in 2025. Dad, he said laughing, and I thought, I live like this because the pension barely reaches. Because after working all my life, this is what I have left. Because your mom left and I had to raise you alone on a teacher's salary. But I did not say it. I only lowered my gaze, and that was worse. Because he interpreted my silence as acceptance. As if I agreed that my life was a disaster, as if I accepted being his joke. He grabbed one of my books, an old copy of 100 Years of Solitude that I had read 1,000 times. The pages were yellow, the cover worn. "You still read this?" he asked with contempt. "Dad, there are audiobooks. There are tablets. Why do you continue with these old things?" "Because that book was given to me by my father," I wanted to tell him. "Because when I read it, I feel he is still with me. Because not everything is about having the new, the modern, what is in fashion." But he would not understand. For him, everything old was trash, including me. And he kept recording. He went to my room, filmed my bed, the clothes hanging on a makeshift line because the dryer broke 3 years ago and I could never fix it. "This is depressing," he said, and he laughed. He laughed at his father's life. I felt something inside me break, like glass falling and shattering into 1,000 pieces. Because it is one thing for a stranger to judge you. It is very different when your own son looks at you as if you were trash, as if your existence were a mistake, as if the simple fact of being alive and old were something to be ashamed of. I wanted to scream at him. I wanted to shake him and ask him when he had turned into this, into someone so cruel, so cold, so empty, but I did not. Because he was still my son and I still loved him, even if he did not love me anymore. He went back to the living room and made me sit on the sofa. "I am going to ask you some questions," he said, and without waiting for my answer, he started. "Why do you live alone? Because your mom left and you abandoned me," I thought. But I said, "Things happen." He insisted. "Do you not have friends? Do you not have anyone?" I had my ex-students. I had Mrs. Peterson, my neighbor, who sometimes brought me food. But for him, that was not enough. For him. If you did not have 1,000 followers on the internet, you were alone. "I have people who appreciate me," I told him, and he laughed again. "It does not show," he replied, and that answer hurt me more than any punch. He asked me how much pension I got. I told him. I saw his face of feigned horror for the camera. That is all, after working all your life, as if he cared, as if he really worried that his father survived on a misery. If he cared, he would have helped me. He would have visited me. He would have called me to ask if I needed anything. But no, he only cared about having content, having something to show his community so they would feel pity or mock. I do not know which was worse, if the pity or the mockery. Both humiliated me equally. Both made me feel less than nothing. When the interview finished, he put away the camera. I thought that maybe now we could talk for real, that maybe he would turn off that device and return to being Ethan, my Ethan. I offered him coffee. "Do you want to stay a while?" I asked him, and the hope in my voice was so obvious it gave me shame. He looked at his watch. "I can't. I have to edit this." Edit. He had not even left, and he was already thinking about turning my life into a video, cutting it, adding music to it, uploading it so the world would laugh. "This is going to get millions of views," he told me. And he smiled. He was proud. Proud of humiliating his father. He left without saying goodbye, without a hug, without an "I love you?" Nothing. He just closed the door and left me there, in the middle of that apartment that now seemed sadder than ever. Why had he seen it with those eyes that judged, that measured the value of a life by the size of the TV screen, or by how much food was in the fridge? I sat on the sofa, in the same place where he had asked me the questions, and I started to cry. I cried like I hadn't cried since Claire left. I cried for everything I had lost, for the son I no longer recognized, for the dignity I had just handed him on a platter. And the worst is that I knew what was coming. I knew he was going to upload that video, that thousands of people were going to see it, that they were going to see my small apartment, my empty fridge, my old clothes, that they were going to judge me, without knowing who I was, without knowing what I had done in my life. For them, I would just be the bitter old man, the failure, the example of how not to end up. And my son would be the hero showing reality, raising awareness. What irony! Raising awareness by destroying your own father. That night, I did not sleep. I stayed awake waiting for him to upload the video, waiting for my life to become a public joke. If you are listening to my story, I ask you to tell me in the comments where you are watching me from. Knowing there are people in the world who still listen gives me strength to continue. The next day, Ethan called me. It was the first time in months his name appeared on my phone screen. My heart beat so fast I thought I was going to have a heart attack. I answered fast, too fast. with that desperation of someone who has been waiting a long time. "Ethan," I said, and without any greeting, without any warmth, he dropped on me. "Dad, I need you to see something before I upload it. Come to my house," his house. I did not even remember where he lived now. It had been almost 2 years since he invited me anywhere. But I said yes. Of course I said yes. Because when your son calls you after so long, the reason does not matter. It only matters that he called. I fixed myself up the best I could. I put on the least wrinkled shirt I had. I combed my hair. I looked in the mirror and saw an old man trying to look dignified, trying not to look as pathetic as he felt. I arrived at his apartment downtown, a modern building with an electric doorman, with an elevator that worked. Nothing to do with mine. I rang the bell and he buzzed me in. I went up. When I reached the floor, he was at the door waiting for me. He did not smile, did not greet me with a hug. He just ushered me in. The apartment was full of lights, cameras, tripods. There was a huge desk with 3 monitors. There were posters of people I did not know. Everything was white, modern, impeccable, and I felt dirty in there, out of place, like a stain in a place too clean. He sat me in front of the computer. "Look," he told me, and he pressed play on the video. My video. The video of my shame. Watching that was like receiving a beating. Every shot was a punch in the stomach. I saw myself there in my apartment, looking older than I believed, more finished, sadder. The editing was cruel. He had put melancholic music in the background. He had zoomed in on the empty fridge. He had cut my answers to make it seem like I had nothing to say. He had put texts on the screen. This is how he lives after 40 years of working. This is what awaits you if you don't plan your future. He was using me as an example, as a warning, as the scarecrow of what not to be in life. And the worst is that he was proud. I saw his face reflected in the monitor. He was smiling, waiting for me to tell him it was a good job, waiting for my approval to humiliate me. When the video finished, I stayed in silence. I could not speak. I had a knot in my throat so big I thought I was going to choke. He looked at me, waiting for a reaction, and he hasn't. And with my voice breaking, I told him, "Don't upload it," those 3 words. 3 words that contained everything I had left of dignity. "Please, Ethan, don't upload it." He frowned, as if my request were an insult, as if I did not have the right to ask that. "Why not?" he asked me, and I did not know what to tell him. How do you explain to your son that what he did hurts, that seeing your life turned into a joke destroys you, that having thousands of people laughing at you is worse than being alone? "Because it is my life, Ethan," I told him. "Because I don't want the world to see me like this." He got up from the chair, started walking from one side to the other. He was annoyed. I could see it. "Dad, you don't understand. This is important. People need to see reality. They need to know what happens when you don't prepare for the future. The reality. As if my life were only that. An example of failure. I prepared. I told him. I worked all my life. I raised you alone. I helped hundreds of students. Does that not count?" He looked at me as if I were speaking another language, as if what I said made no sense. That was before Dad. Now things are different. Now what matters is something else. And there I understood. For him, I was from the past. Something old. Something that was no longer useful. Something disposable. "Ethan, I ask you, please. I am your father." I begged him. And I hated sounding like that. I hated begging. But I did it. Because I needed him to understand. I needed him to see me for real. Not as content. Not as views. But as his dad, as the man who carried him when he cried as a baby, who took him to the hospital when he had pneumonia at 5 years old, who stayed awake 1,000 nights so he could sleep peacefully. But he just shook his head. "It is my content, Dad. My channel. I decide what goes up. His content. I was his content. Not his father. Not a person with feelings. Just material for his channel. For his community of strangers who knew nothing about us. If you upload it, you're going to destroy me. I told him. And it was true. I knew he would do it. I knew I was not going to be able to bear it. Don't be dramatic, he answered me. It is just a video. People are going to see it, going to comment. And in 2 days, they are going to forget. That is how the internet works. But I was not going to forget. I was going to remember every second of that humiliation, every cruel comment, every laugh, every mockery, because it was not just a video. It was my life. It was everything I had been reduced to 8 minutes of cruel editing. Give me at least a few days, I asked him. Let me think about it, he sighed, as if I were a whimsical child, as if my pain were a nuisance. I have to upload it today. I already scheduled it. I already announced it to my community. His community again. Always his damned community. I got up from the chair. I could not be there anymore. I could not keep begging, because I was humiliating myself more than he had already done with that video. I walked toward the door. He followed me. Don't get mad, Dad, he told me, but he did not sound sorry. He sounded irritated, as if I were the problem, as if I were being unfair to him. I am not mad, I told him. And it was true. I was not mad. I was broken. I was shattered. I was feeling how the last thing I had left of my son escaped between my fingers like sand. I'm just sad. Very sad. And I left. I went down the stairs because I did not want to wait for the elevator. I did not want him to see me cry because I was crying. Tears were falling on their own, and I could not stop them. I walked back to my apartment. It took me more than an hour. I could have taken the bus. But I needed to walk. I needed to think. I needed to process what had just happened. My son had asked me to see how he planned to destroy me, and when I asked him not to do it, he told me no, that his content was more important than me, that his followers were more important than his father. I walked through the streets seeing other families, parents with children, grandparents with grandchildren, people laughing, people hugging, and I could only think, what did I do wrong? At what moment did I lose my son? But there was no answer any more. There was only silence, a deafening silence that followed me everywhere. I arrived home when it was already getting dark. I sat on the sofa without turning on the lights. I stayed there in the dark, waiting. I knew he was going to upload the video. I knew it, because Ethan was no longer my son. He was a stranger who shared my blood, a stranger who saw me as an object, as something to use and discard. I grabbed the phone. I went to his channel, and there it was, published 20 minutes ago. The sad reality of old people who didn't plan their future. That was the title, with a photo of me on the cover, a photo where I looked tired, defeated, finished, and below, the numbers started to grow. 1,000 views, 2,000, 5,000, and with every view I felt a part of me dying. I pressed play. I watched it completely again, and it was worse than the first time. Because now it was public. Now there was no turning back. Now thousands of people were seeing my apartment, my empty fridge, my sad life. I went to the comments, and what I read ripped away the little I had left. Ha 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 ha. So sad, said one. This is how I'm going to end up if I don't get my act together, said another. Poor old man. But it's his fault, wrote someone else. My fault. Everything was my fault. It did not matter that I had worked 42 years. It did not matter that I had raised my son alone. Nothing mattered. For them I was just a bitter old man who deserved to be alone. And my son was in the comments replying, thanking, saying that soon there would be more content, more videos, more humiliation, and I closed the phone, threw it on the sofa, and started crying like a child, because I had nothing left to do. I spent the whole night awake. I could not sleep knowing that, at that precise moment, while I was lying there in the dark, thousands of people were watching that video, seeing my life, judging me, laughing at me. I imagined their faces, young people, like Ethan, seeing a pathetic old man and feeling relief that they would never end up like that. At 4 in the morning, I grabbed the phone again. I do not know why. Maybe because the pain was already so big that a little more did not matter. I entered the video again. 50,000 views. 50,000 in less than 12 hours. And the comments kept arriving. Hundreds. Thousands. Each one a knife. I read every comment. Each one. As if it were a punishment I deserved. "This old man is alone because surely he was a bad father," said one. And that hurt me more than all the others combined. Because part of me believed it. Part of me thought yes. That I had been a bad father. That if I had been better, Ethan would not be doing this. That if I had loved him more or differently, or in the correct way, he would not hate me so much. I kept scrolling down. What sadness to live like this. This gives me anxiety. I will never end up like him. And I just thought, I did not want to end up like this either. Nobody wants to. But life does not ask you. Life simply happens. And suddenly you're 67 years old. You're alone. And your son turns you into a meme. But then, around 5 in the morning, I saw something different. A comment that said, "Wait, isn't that Mr. Vance?" I read it 3 times. Mr. Vance. I stared at that comment as if it were a mirage, as if it were something I had imagined. I refreshed the page, and there were more. It can't be. He taught me at Lincoln High. My school. Someone had recognized me. My heart started beating faster. I kept reading. It is Arthur Vance. The literature teacher. Yes, that was me. That had been me. It had been so long that I had almost forgotten. But someone remembered me. Someone in the middle of those thousands of cruel comments had recognized me. The comments started to change, as if someone had turned on a light in the middle of the darkness. My God, that man saved my life when I was a teenager, someone wrote. And then another, thanks to him, I finished college. He was the only one who believed in me. And another one, Mr. Vance, if you are reading this, know that I never forgot you. You changed my life. I could not believe what I was seeing. Tears ran down my face, but for the first time in a long time, they were not of pain. They were of something else, of something I did not know how to name. Relief, gratitude, hope. I kept reading. I could not stop. Every comment was like a hug, like someone telling me, "You are not alone. We remember you. You mattered." A woman wrote something that broke my heart. I was Mr. Vance's student in 1998. My dad had died, and I was about to quit school. He talked to me after class. He told me my dad would have wanted me to finish. He got me the books I couldn't pay for. He helped me with homework. Thanks to him, I graduated. Then I studied to be a teacher, and everything was because of him. That man is not a failure. He is a hero the world forgot. I read that comment over and over and over again. I was crying so much I could almost not see the screen. Because I had forgotten. I had forgotten that I was once important to someone, that I once did something good. My son had convinced me that my life was worth nothing, but there were my students reminding me who I had been. The comments kept arriving, dozens, hundreds, ex-students I hadn't seen in years, that maybe I would never see again. But who remembered me? That man taught me to read when no one else believed I could. Wrote one. He stayed after class to help me, without charging, just because he cared. Another said, I was a disaster. Repeating the year. Nobody bet on me, but Mr. Vance did. He told me I was intelligent, that I just needed to find my way. Today I am an engineer, and it all started with him, and they continued, and continued, like an avalanche of memories, of gratitude, of love, and me there, sitting on my sofa, reading all that, and feeling that I could breathe again. But Ethan was not seeing this, or if he was seeing it, he did not care. Because while I read those beautiful comments, he kept replying to the others, to those who mocked, to those who criticized me. He completely ignored those who defended me. as if they did not exist, as if they did not matter. And I realized something terrible. It was not convenient for my son that I was good. It was not convenient for him that they defended me. Because then, his video did not work anymore. He was no longer the brave son showing the raw reality. He was the cruel son humiliating a good man. And that did not give him views. That did not give him followers. That made him look bad. By 8 in the morning, the positive comments already outnumbered the negative ones. People who did not know me started to investigate. They found old articles from local newspapers where they had interviewed me for school projects. They found photos of school events where I appeared with my students. They shared everything. "This man is not what his son wants us to believe," someone wrote. "He is a teacher who gave his life for others. And look how his own son treats him." And there it started. There everything started to change. Because people started to see, started to understand, and started to get angry. Not with me. With Ethan. "What kind of son does this?" they asked. "Humiliating your father for views is the lowest thing I've seen. This kid is ungrateful." The comments against Ethan started to multiply, and for the first time since this had started, I felt something similar to justice. I was not happy they attacked him. He was still my son. But I needed someone to tell him that what he had done was wrong, because I had already told him, and he did not listen to me. Maybe if 1,000 people told him, maybe then he would understand. Maybe then he would see that what he did was not creating content. It was destroying someone. It was humiliating the man who gave him life. But Ethan did not understand. Or worse still, he understood and did not care. Because instead of apologizing, instead of taking down the video, he did something worse. He started deleting comments. He blocked the people who defended me. He eliminated everything that made him look bad. And I saw him do all that in real time. Because I kept checking the video. I saw how a beautiful comment from an ex-student disappeared. How someone telling a story about me was blocked. And I realized that my son was not only cruel, he was a coward. He could not face the truth. He could not accept that he had done something horrible. So he preferred to hide it, delete it, as if it had never existed, and then he did it. What I never imagined he would do. He uploaded another video. I saw it appear on his channel around 10 in the morning, responding to haters. The truth about my dad. I pressed play, and what I saw destroyed me. There he was, speaking to the camera with that fake smile, saying, "A lot of people are angry about my previous video. They say my dad was a teacher, that he helped people, and yes, it's true. But look where he is now. Look how he ended up. That is exactly my point. It doesn't matter what you do. If you don't plan, if you don't save, if you don't invest in yourself, you are going to end up like this, alone and bitter." He doubled down. Instead of apologizing, he used me again. He humiliated me again. And this time it was worse, because now he knew I was watching. He knew it was going to hurt, and still he did it. And there I understood something. I understood that I had lost my son forever. After seeing that second video, something inside me changed. It was no longer just sadness. It was rage. A rage I hadn't felt in years, because it is one thing to be humiliated once. It is very different after seeing that they defended you, after seeing that people came out to remember who you were, to decide to do it again, deciding to drive the knife deeper. My phone did not stop ringing. They were unknown numbers, messages from people I hadn't seen in years, ex-students who had found my number who knows how. "Mr. Vance," we saw the videos. "It can't be true your son did that." "Professor, are you okay? Do you need anything?" And I did not know what to answer, because I was not okay, because I needed many things. But above all, I needed to understand how my son had turned into this, into someone capable of so much damage. Sarah Jenkins was the first to appear at my door. Sarah had been my student in 2005, a shy girl, quiet, who almost never spoke in class. But she wrote like an angel. She loved poetry. I encouraged her to participate in school contests. She won several. Today she is a writer, publishes books, and there she was, at my door, with red eyes from crying. "Professor," she told me when I opened, and she hugged me. She hugged me tight, like you hug someone who's about to break, and I broke right there, in her arms, because it had been so long since anyone hugged me like that, with real affection, with real love. "I came as soon as I saw the videos," she told me. "I can't believe your son did that. You don't deserve this." We entered. I made her tea. We sat at the kitchen table, the same table Ethan had filmed with contempt, and Sarah told me. She told me she had shared the video on her social networks, that she had written a long post telling who I really was, what I had done for her, for so many others. The response was immediate. "Professor," thousands of people shared my story, and other ex-students started coming out, telling their stories too. She showed me her phone, and there they were, dozens of posts. "Mr. Arthur Vance taught me that I had worth," said one. "He saved me from quitting school," said another. "I owe him everything I am," wrote someone else, and I read all that feeling, something strange, something I had forgotten existed. Pride. Pride in what I had done, in who I had been. Sarah hugged me again before leaving. "You are not alone, Professor. There are hundreds of us who love you, who remember you." And she left. But she was not the last. Throughout that day they kept arriving. Julian, who was now a doctor. Linda, who worked at the city hall. Louis, who had his own company. One after another. Some brought flowers, others food. Everyone brought memories, stories I had forgotten. "Do you remember when you lent me money for the bus for 3 months? Because my mom was sick. Do you remember when you stayed with me until 8 p.m., helping me with math? Because if I failed, they kicked me out." I did not remember everything. But they did. They kept those memories like treasures, and they returned them to me now that I needed them most. For the first time in years, my apartment was full of life, of voices, of laughter, of people who loved me. And for a moment, just for a moment, I thought maybe this was what was needed, that maybe Ethan would see all this and understand, that he would see all these people coming to defend me and realize his mistake, that his dad was not a failure, that he had done important things, that he had touched lives. I imagined the moment, Ethan knocking on the door, seeing all these people, realizing, asking me for forgiveness, hugging me, crying with me, saying, "I'm sorry, Dad, I was wrong," and returning to be my son, my Ethan, the boy I knew. That hope filled my chest, made me smile for the first time in days. Mrs. Peterson, my neighbor, also came. She had seen everything from the beginning. She had seen Ethan arrive with the camera. She had heard everything through the thin walls. "Mr. Vance," she told me, "I don't understand much about the internet, but I know what that boy did is wrong. Very wrong." She brought me a stew she had prepared. "So you eat well," she told me, and she stayed with me all afternoon. We talked about simple things, the neighborhood, the weather, the neighbors, normal things that made me feel human again. Not a viral video, not a joke, just Arthur, a 67-year-old man drinking tea with his neighbor. Something so simple and so beautiful that it made me cry again. That night, I checked social media. Ethan's video was still there, but something had changed. The comments were almost all in my defense. People who never knew me defended me. This gentleman deserves respect. What an ungrateful son. Teachers like him are anonymous heroes. And I read all that feeling that maybe, just maybe, all this had been worth it. That maybe the humiliation had served to remind the world that people like me still existed. People who gave everything without expecting anything in return. And I thought about Ethan. I thought surely he was seeing all this. That surely his phone was also exploding with messages. And that maybe at some point in the night he was going to call me. was going to tell me he regretted it, that he wanted to talk, that he wanted to fix things. I waited all night with the phone in my hand, waiting for it to ring, for his name to appear on the screen. But nothing happened. The silence remained silence, and the hope I had felt during the day started to fade slowly, like a candle burning out. The next day early, I saw Ethan had published something new. It was not a video. It was a post, long, on all his social networks. I read it completely, and every word was like a whip. I want to clarify something, it said. My video about my father was not to humiliate him. It was to raise awareness, to show reality. Yes, he was a teacher. Yes, he helped people. And that doesn't change the fact that now he is alone, that he didn't plan, that he didn't save, that he didn't invest in his future. I kept reading. A lot of people are attacking me, saying I'm cruel, that I'm a bad son, but they are wrong. I love my father, but I also know his life is a warning, an example of what not to do. And if showing that makes me the bad guy in the movie, so be it. I prefer being honest to being a hypocrite. Honest. He called cruelty honesty. He called betrayal love. And he ended by saying, I am not going to take down the videos. I am not going to apologize, because I didn't do anything wrong. My job is to show reality. And that is what I did. I read it 3 times, 4, 5, hoping to find even one line saying he cared, that it hurt him, that he felt something. But there was nothing. Only justifications, only excuses, only that coldness I no longer recognized. The comments on that post exploded, but now it was different. Now the majority of people attacked him. You can't call this love. You are using your father. You are disgusting. And I saw all that without feeling anything, neither relief nor satisfaction. Nothing. Because I realized something terrible, that no matter how many people criticized him, no matter how many people defended me, Ethan was not going to change. He was not going to understand. He was not going to return. The hope I had felt the day before, when my house was full of ex-students, had turned into ashes, because I had believed that maybe this would unite us, that maybe seeing how many people loved me would make him rethink. But no, it only put him on the defensive. It only made him dig deeper into his mistake. I stayed sitting on the sofa with the phone in my hand. Outside it was dawning. The lights of dawn entered through the window, and me there, feeling that something inside me had broken definitely. Because when you have hope, however small, you can keep going. You can endure the pain because you think maybe tomorrow will be different. But when hope dies, when you realize nothing is going to change, that the person you love is lost forever, that is when the true pain begins. And that pain, that void, is worse than any public humiliation, because it is private. It is yours. And there is no viral video that can show it. Only you know how deep it hurts. And it hurts so much that sometimes you wish you felt nothing. Just stop feeling. Just turn off. Monday morning they kept arriving. First it was an older couple. They knocked on the door, and when I opened, the woman had a bouquet of flowers in her hands. Mr. Arthur Vance, she asked. I nodded, confused. You don't know me, she said, but you taught my son 20 years ago, Julian Connor. We saw what happened, and we wanted to come thank you. Julian is a lawyer today, thanks to you. I did not know what to say. I just invited them in. They told me Julian was working in another city, but that he had seen the videos, that he had cried, that he had asked them to come in his name to tell me, that he never forgot me, that he owed everything he was to me, and I, that old man who, according to my son, was worth nothing, started crying in front of 2 strangers who hugged me as if they had known me all my life. After that, more arrived. By noon, there were like 15 people in my apartment. Ex-students who had traveled from other cities, parents of students I had helped, even some teachers I worked with years ago, and who had found out through social media, They brought food, coffee, pastries. My house looked like a party, and I did not know whether to laugh or cry, because on one hand I was overwhelmed with gratitude, with love, with all that affection I never imagined existed, but on the other hand was the absence of the only person who should be there, my son, and that absence hurt more than 1,000 nice visits, because all those people had come, but not him. He remained in his world, defending the indefensible, justifying the unjustifiable. At 3 in the afternoon, the journalists arrived. First it was a local newspaper, then a radio station, then a TV station. Everyone wanted the same story, the forgotten teacher whose son made him viral. They interviewed me. I told them about my life, about my years teaching, about the students who passed through my classes. I talked about everything except Ethan, because I did not want to talk about him. I did not want this to be about him. I wanted it to be about teaching, about the importance of teachers, about how society forgets people who give everything without expecting anything. But they insisted, "What do you feel about what your son did?" And I just said, "He is my son. I love him. But I am very hurt. Hurt." What a small word for so much suffering. One of the journalists asked me if I wanted to send a message to Ethan through the camera. I stayed silent a moment, looking at that camera pointing at me just like my sons had pointed at me. But this one was different. This one did not come to humiliate me. It came to give me a voice. "Ethan," I said, feeling my voice break, "if you are watching this, I just want you to know that I forgive you. But I also want you to understand the damage you did to me, not because of the video, but because of how you treated me, because of how you saw me, as if I were not your father, as if I were just content." I could not continue. The tears did not let me. The journalist turned off the camera, put a hand on my shoulder, said nothing. It was not necessary. The interviews were published that same night, in digital newspapers, on social media. One headline read, "The teacher who changed hundreds of lives now asks his son to see him as a father." Another said, "Arthur Vance, a life dedicated to teaching, a son who didn't learn." The videos of the interviews went viral, as much or more than Ethan's videos, and people commented. Thousands of comments. "This man is a hero. Teachers deserve more respect. How dignified. He doesn't even speak ill of his son." And it was true. I did not speak ill of him. Because despite everything, despite the pain, despite the humiliation, he was still my son. And one does not speak ill of their children, even if they speak ill of you. Ethan saw everything. I know because that night he called me, for the first time in days. His name appeared on my screen. I answered fast, with my heart beating strong. I thought maybe he had seen the interviews and understood, that maybe he was coming to apologize. "Ethan," I said, and what I heard on the other side froze my blood. "What are you doing, Dad?" It was not a question. It was an accusation. "You are giving interviews. You are talking about me. You are making me look like a monster." I could not believe what I was hearing. "Ethan, I didn't—" I started to say, but he interrupted me. "Everyone is attacking me because of you. You are ruining my career, his career. That was what mattered to him, not me, not my pain, not the damage he had done to me, only his damn career." Something inside me exploded. 47 years of being the patient father, understanding, who endures everything, broke in that moment. My fault, I screamed. And I hadn't screamed in years. My fault, Ethan. You humiliated me. You recorded me without permission. You turned me into a joke for millions of people. And now you tell me it is my fault that people criticize you. He stayed silent on the other side. I raised you alone. I continued. I gave you everything I had. I worked 18 hours a day so you would have food, clothes, school. I sacrificed myself. I broke myself in two. And this is how you pay me, using me for your videos, telling the world I am a failure. My voice broke between rage and crying. Do you know how much it hurts that your own son hates you so much? There was a long silence. I thought he had hung up. But then he spoke, and his voice sounded different, less sure. I don't hate you, Dad, he said. And for a second, just a second, he sounded like the Ethan I knew, like my son. Then why I asked him, why did you do this to me? He sighed. Why? Because I needed the content. Because my numbers were going down. Because people get bored fast and you need to do things that impact. And I thought you wouldn't care that much. That it was just a video. Just a video. As if my life could be summarized in just a video. As if my pain were so insignificant that it was not worth considering. It mattered to me, I told him. It mattered to me a lot. You destroyed me, Ethan. I heard noise on the other side, people talking. I have to hang up, he told me. I am in the middle of something. In the middle of something. He was always in the middle of something more important than me. Ethan, wait, I said. We need to talk, for real, without cameras, without internet, just you and me. He did not reply immediately. I don't know, Dad. Right now, everything is very complicated. Complicated. Our relationship was complicated. Please, I begged him, and I hated begging, but I did it. Just one conversation. Give me that at least. Silence. And then, I'll call you later. And he hung up, just like that, without saying goodbye, without saying when. He just hung up, and I stayed there with the phone in the hand, knowing that later would never arrive. But it did not end there, because someone had recorded our conversation. I do not know who. Maybe some neighbor who heard my screams through the walls. Maybe someone who was with Ethan. It does not matter. The case is that parts of that conversation appeared on the internet. My voice screaming, "You humiliated me? You turned me into a joke?" And Ethan's voice replying, "I needed the content." Those fragments went viral. More viral than everything before. Because now people not only saw the videos, now they heard the confrontation. They heard a destroyed father screaming at his son. And they heard a son admitting he had used his father for views, for numbers, for content. And the indignation grew. It grew so much that it got out of control. The next morning, when I turned on the TV, we were on the news. The case of the viral teacher, they called it. Analysts talking about the ethics of digital content. Psychologists talking about family relations in the era of social media. And us, Ethan and me. We were the example, the case study, the story everyone commented on. My phone did not stop ringing. Strangers asking me for interviews, international media wanting to talk to me. And I just wanted silence. I just wanted all this to end. I just wanted my son to knock on the door, hug me, and tell me he was sorry. But I knew it was not going to happen. Because Ethan was not coming. Because Ethan was hiding somewhere, watching his world fall to pieces. And a part of me, the part that still loved him, suffered for him. But another part, the part he had broken, felt nothing. Ethan's channels started to bleed. It was fast, brutal, like watching a building collapse in slow motion. The first to go were the followers. Thousands unsubscribed in a matter of hours. Then were the brands, those companies that paid him to promote their products. They canceled the contracts, one by one, publicly, with statements saying they did not want to associate with someone who disrespects their family. I saw all that happened from my apartment, with the phone in my hand, not knowing how to feel, because part of me, the wounded part, felt something similar to satisfaction, like when justice finally arrives, but another part, the part that was still a father, only felt pain, because that was my son falling, my son destroying himself, and I did not want that. I never wanted that. The hashtag appeared on a Tuesday night. Respect your father. It started here, but expanded like fire. Everyone talking about us, about me, about Ethan. People sharing stories of their own parents, old photos with their teachers, homages to the professors who had marked them. And in the middle of all that, my face. My face of a tired old man that Ethan had shown to the world as an example of failure was now a symbol of dignity, of sacrifice, of all those parents and teachers who gave everything and never asked for anything in return. I did not ask to be a symbol. I did not want to be one. I just wanted to be Arthur. I just wanted my son to love me. But things were already out of my control. They were already bigger than me. Sarah Jenkins organized everything. She and other ex-students got together and planned something I never imagined. A tribute, a public event, in the town square where Lincoln High used to be. She called to tell me, "Professor, we want to do something for you, something big. So you know how much you mean to us, so the world knows who you really are." I told her it was not necessary, that the visits and messages were enough. But she insisted, "It is not just for you, Professor. It is for all teachers, for all those who give everything and receive nothing. You are going to represent us all." And how do you say no to that? How do you deny people who love you the opportunity to show it? The event was on a Saturday. I arrived thinking there would be maybe 30 or 40 people, ex-students, some families, nothing more. But when I turned the corner and saw the square, I almost fell over. There were hundreds of people, hundreds, with signs, with flowers, with photos of me from 20, 30 years ago, photos I did not remember existed. There was a stage set up with a microphone, banners that said, "Thank you, Mr. Vance. Teachers are heroes. True success is the love you give," and all those faces looking at me, waiting for me, and me standing there not knowing what to do, unable to move because my legs were trembling and my eyes were filling with tears I could not control. Sarah took me by the arm. She guided me toward the stage. The people started to applaud, and that sound, that applause, pierced my chest like lightning, because it had been so long since anyone applauded me, so long that I felt invisible. And now there were hundreds of people there, applauding, shouting my name, crying. I saw familiar faces, Julian the doctor, Linda from the city hall, Lewis the businessman. I saw Mrs. Peterson with a huge sign. I saw teachers I worked with decades ago. I saw parents of students I did not even know. And they were all there for me, for that old man his son had called a failure. And in that moment, I understood something. I understood that Ethan was wrong, that success is not measured in followers or money or luxury apartments. It is measured in how many lives you touched, in how many hearts you changed. And I had changed hundreds. One by one they went up to speak. Sarah was the first. She told how I had helped her find her voice, how I had encouraged her to write when no one else believed in her. Julian told that I had lent him money for his medical books when his family could not pay for them. Linda told that I had defended her when other teachers wanted to expel her for bad grades. Story after story, testimony after testimony, each one more emotional than the last, and I sat there in the front row crying without stopping, because I had forgotten. I had forgotten all that. The pain of the last years had erased all the good moments, but they had not forgotten. They kept them like treasures, and they were returning them to me now when I needed them most. There was a moment when a woman I did not recognize went up. She was young, maybe 30 years old. She stood in front of the microphone and said, "I was not Mr. Vance's student. I never met him until today, but I am here because my mom was his student, and my mom died 2 years ago. But before dying, she made me promise something. She made me promise that if I ever found out that something was happening to Mr. Vance, I would go help him, because he saved her when no one else did." The woman started to cry. My mom was an orphan. She lived with uncles who did not love her. Mr. Vance paid for her school supplies for 3 years, out of his own pocket, without telling anyone. She never forgot him, and I am not going to forget him either. I did not remember. I had helped so many people that I did not remember. But she did. Her mom did. And that broke me. The media was there, filming everything, broadcasting live, and social media exploded again, but now in a different way. Now it was not hate towards Ethan, it was love towards me. Millions of people watching the tribute, sharing the testimonies, crying with the stories, and the comments were overwhelming. This is what is worth it in life. Teachers are the most important thing we have. That man is richer than any influencer. And among all those comments, I looked for Ethan's. I looked if he had seen, if he had commented something, but there was nothing. His profile was silent, as if he did not exist, as if all this was not happening. And that hurt me more than everything before, because it meant that not even this, not even seeing hundreds of people loving me, was enough for him to react. It was my turn to speak. Sarah called me to the stage. I had nothing prepared. I did not know what to say. I stood in front of that microphone, seeing all those faces waiting. And the only thing that came out was the truth. I do not know what to say. I started. I never imagined something like this would happen. I never imagined you would remember. Because I just did my job. I was just a teacher. And being a teacher means loving. Loving people who maybe are never going to return it. Giving without expecting anything in return. And yes, it hurts. It hurts a lot when the person you love most treats you as if you were worth nothing. But now, seeing all this, I understand something. I understand that the love one gives is never lost. It always comes back, maybe not from whom you expected, but it comes back. The people applauded, but I had not finished. My son is wrong, I said, and it was the first time I said it publicly. He is wrong to think my life was a failure, because you are my success, each one of you, each life I touched, each smile I provoked, each tear I dried, that is my success. And no one can take that away from me, not even him. My voice was trembling. And if you are watching this, Ethan, I want you to know that I forgive you. I forgive you because you are my son, and you are always going to be. But I also want you to know that what you did is wrong, and that I hope one day you understand. That you understand that the true value of a person is not in how many followers he has. It is in how many hearts he touched. I went down from the stage between applause and hugs, and for the first time in a long time I felt complete. Not happy, because Ethan still hurt me, but complete. As if I had recovered something I had lost, my dignity. Ethan saw everything. I know because that night he posted something, not on his main channel, on a secondary account that almost no one followed. A short video, without editing, just him, in his apartment, speaking to the camera with red eyes. I saw the tribute to my dad, he said, and I don't know what to say. I don't know how to process all this. I thought I was right. I thought I was doing the right thing, but maybe I was wrong. Maybe I went too far. I don't know if my dad is going to forgive me. I don't know if I deserve his forgiveness. I only know that I'm sorry. I truly am sorry. The video lasted less than a minute. It had few views. Almost no one saw it. But I did. I watched it 50 times, searching in his eyes for something real, something sincere. And I think I found it. I think for the first time in years, I saw my son, the real one, the one who was broken, the one who had lost himself. And although it hurt, although everything still hurt, that video gave me something. It gave me hope, not the foolish hope from before, but a realistic hope. The hope that maybe, just maybe, one day we could talk, we could heal, we could be father and son again. Not yet, but one day. 3 days after the tribute, the phone rang. It was Principal Margaret from Lincoln High. It had been years since I spoke with her. She had retired shortly after me. Arthur, she told me. I saw everything that happened, and I want to propose something to you. She told me the school had opened a volunteer tutoring program for students with difficulties. They needed experienced teachers, teachers who knew how to connect with kids. I thought of you immediately, she said. Would you like to come back? It is not a paid job, but it would be twice a week, helping kids who need you. I did not doubt it for a second. Yes, I told her. Yes, I want to. Because I realized something. I realized that retirement had killed me slowly. That without teaching, without helping, without feeling useful, I had been fading away, and now I had the opportunity to return. To return to doing what I loved, what made me feel alive. I returned to the school on a Monday afternoon. Entering through those doors after so many years was like traveling in time. The hallways smelled the same, of chalk and youth, of dreams and future. They assigned me a group of 6 kids, all with academic problems, some with family problems too. And when I entered that classroom and saw their faces, I saw my reflection. I saw the Arthur from 40 years ago, young, full of energy, with desire to change the world. Hello, I told them. My name is Arthur Vance, and I am going to help you discover how incredible you are. One of the kids, a dark-haired boy with long hair, looked at me funny. Are you the one from the video? He asked. That influencer's dad? I stayed silent. Then I nodded. Yes, I said, that is me. And he smiled. Your son is a real jackass, isn't he? And they all laughed, and I laughed too. Because yes, a real jackass. Working with those kids gave me back something I had lost. Purpose. Every afternoon I spent with them was a reminder of why I had chosen to be a teacher. Not for the money, not for the recognition, but for those moments. Those moments when you see a kid understand something he did not understand before. When his eyes light up, when they tell you, "Ah, I got it, Professor." That was what made me happy, and I had forgotten it. I had lost it in the middle of loneliness and pain. But now I was recovering it. The kids loved me, respected me. They sought me out during breaks to talk, and I felt useful again, important, not for millions of people on the internet, but for 6 kids who needed me, and that was enough. It was more than enough. The ex-students did not stop visiting me. It became a custom. On Sundays, my apartment filled up. They brought food. We made a kind of community lunch. We talked about everything. About their lives, their jobs, their families. They told me their problems, and I gave them advice, like before, like always. And I realized I'd built a family, not of blood, but a family just the same. People who loved me, who took care of me, who worried about me. Mrs. Peterson came too. She became friends with everyone, and my apartment, that apartment Ethan had shown as a symbol of failure, became a place full of life, full of love, full of laughter, and when I went to bed at night, I no longer felt alone, because I knew that the next day someone was going to call me, someone was going to visit me, someone was going to remember me. Ethan did not upload videos again. He closed his main channel. He walked away from social media. I found out through others that he was working a normal job, in an office, something in digital marketing. He was no longer an influencer. He no longer had millions of followers. He was just Ethan, a 28-year-old guy trying to rebuild his life. He did not look for me. He did not call me after that video, asking for forgiveness. And I did not look for him either, because I understood something. I understood that one cannot force things. You cannot force someone to love you. You cannot force your son to return. You can only live your life. Be the best version of yourself, and wait. Wait for one day. When he is ready, he returns, or maybe he does not return, and that is also okay. Because your life cannot depend on someone who does not want to be in it. One day, about 3 months after the tribute, I was at school working with the kids when Principal Margaret entered the classroom. Arthur, there is someone who wants to see you, she told me, and she had that smile that says she knows something you do not know. I went out to the hallway, and there he was, Ethan, standing next to the door, with his hands in his pockets, looking smaller than he was, more lost. He saw me and lowered his gaze. He said nothing. Neither did I. We stayed there, 10 feet apart, with a giant silence between us, a silence of years, of pain, of unspoken things, until he spoke. "Hello, Dad," he said, and his voice broke. "Hello, Ethan," I replied, and I do not know who moved first, maybe him, maybe me, but suddenly we were hugging, and we were both crying, and words were not necessary. Not yet. It was not an instant happy ending. It was not like in the movies. Ethan did not move back home. We did not go back to being like before. Because you can't. Because there are things that break. And no matter how much you glue them, the crack is always going to be there. But we started. We started to talk. Once a week we met for coffee. At first they were uncomfortable conversations, forced, full of long silences, but little by little we were finding the rhythm. He told me how he felt, the pressure of social media, the constant need to create content, to be relevant, not to disappear. I lost myself. Dad, he told me one afternoon, I lost myself, and I didn't know how to come back, and I told him, but you came back. That is what matters. And it was true. He had come back, late, after much pain, but he had come back. I introduced him to the tutoring kids. He came one day to the school and sat in the back of the room to observe. When we finished, one of the kids approached him. "Hey, you are the one who made the video about the professor." "Right." Ethan turned red. He nodded. The kid looked at him seriously. That was very bad. "You know." And I thought there was going to be a problem. But then the kid smiled. "But well, your dad is awesome. So I guess something good came out of all that. More people met him." Ethan laughed. A sad laugh. But a laugh nonetheless. "Yes," he said. "I guess so." And he looked at me. And in that look I saw something. I saw pride. For the first time in years, I saw that my son was proud of me. And that small moment was worth more than 1,000 tributes, more than 1,000 viral videos. Because it was real. It was sincere. It was from him. Today I am 68 years old. More than a year passed since all this started. Since Ethan arrived with that camera and changed everything. My life is different now, better in many ways, worse in others. I still live in the same apartment. I still eat alone most days. But I no longer feel alone. Because I have my ex-students. I have the tutoring kids. I have Mrs. Peterson. I have Principal Margaret. I have a family I chose, and who chose me. And I have Ethan. Back, not like before. But in a new way, a more honest way, more real. We see each other every week. We talk. We laugh. Sometimes there is still tension. Sometimes it still hurts. But we are trying. And that is the only thing one can ask for. The attempt. I learned something from all this. I learned that pain does not kill you. It changes you. It breaks you. But it also rebuilds you. And sometimes the person who comes out on the other side is stronger, more complete, more human. I learned that the value of a life is not measured in what you have. It is measured in what you give, in the lives you touch, in the hearts you change. I learned that family is not always blood. Sometimes it is the people who appear when you need them most. And I learned that forgiving does not mean forgetting. It means letting go of hate, resentment, pain, to be able to continue, to be able to live. And I let go. I let go of everything that was killing me, and I continued. And here I am, still standing, still teaching, still loving, still being Arthur Vance, teacher, father, survivor. If there is something I want you to understand from my story, it is this. It does not matter how much it hurts. It does not matter how much they break you. You can always return. You can always get up. Because the true failure is not falling. It is staying there, on the floor. Without trying to stand up again, I fell. They destroyed me. My own son humiliated me in front of millions, but I got up. And if I could, you can too. Whatever you're going through, whoever has hurt you, you can return, you can heal. You can be happy again. It is not going to be easy. It is not going to be fast. But it is possible. I am living proof of that. And if one day we meet on the street, if you recognize me by that old man face my son showed the world, come closer, greet me, tell me your story, because we all have one, and they are all worth telling. And you, what would you do if it were your own son who betrays you? Would you stay in silence or seek your dignity? Have you forgiven someone who broke your heart? If this story touched your soul, leave me your comment down below telling your experience. And if you do not follow the channel yet, subscribe. Every day there are real stories like this, stories that could be yours. Your like and your comment mean more than you imagine.